Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yeah, you never saw it coming. And you have found us, America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment of our show is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. And I got to start out by congratulating my good friend Jessica Taylor. She is the founder of LegacyTree.com. She's one of the sponsors of our show. And she was just given this past week the Small Business Administration Woman-Owned Business of the Year. And she was honored in a ceremony on May 24th. I got to attend that. And this was a big deal for her, of course. You know, this was 13 years ago. She founded this company. It's seen tremendous growth. And I'm not only proud of her, but all of her team, which is a great collection of incredible people. So congratulations to Legacy Tree and Jessica Taylor. Now, coming up in just a little bit, you're going to hear a story that is absolutely unbelievable. It begins with the kidnapping of an infant in Illinois in 1964. It fast forwards over 50 years later to DNA testing, and it involves C.C. Moore, the DNA detective. I'm going to be talking to Paul Franzak and C.C. Moore later in the show. You're going to want to catch this. You're going to be talking about it. And then after that, Tom Perry, our preservation authority, is in talking about a listener's question about restoring a 1970s era collection of photographs of gravestones. But right now, let's head out to Boston and talk to my good friend David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. Hello, David.
Hello, Fish. How are you today?
Awesome. By the way, I just found out last night that I am connected to perhaps the biggest Red Sox fan out there, Ben Affleck.
My goodness, you have a Beantown connection.
Yes, there is a Beantown connection. Thomas Newberry and Joan Dabino. Maybe you're familiar with those names from your lengthy research. He and I both descend from that couple. So I don't know if this means I can get free movie passes at some point or maybe a massive inheritance. But still, pretty cool to be related to Ben Affleck.
Hey, that's one of those 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, something like that. I'm related to him, too, but that's another story.
Well, my story for you this week is going to lead off with something that's actually kind of tied into what Tom's doing later. You know, I wrote a book on Massachusetts cemeteries, currently working on my 3rd edition of it. And, you know, I really do dig old gravestones, no pun intended, and their epitaphs are sometimes hilarious. Now, I want to mention one that I saw, and it's actually for a Roman actor. He was the manager of a pantomime troupe. His name was Labernia.
So what does it say?
I've died many times, but never like this.
I love that.
Yeah, that one just killed me. I'm sorry. Just couldn't resist. The next story is actually a touching story. And as we know, there are many players in the DNA world, but thank goodness for MyHeritage DNA and 2 people that tested. Well, back 43 years ago, Robin Adair Pacey, who lives out in Mesa, Arizona, was 14 years old when she got pregnant and gave birth to a little girl. She gave the girl up for adoption and never saw her again. She tried, as many adopted parents have done over the years, to try to find what happened to the girl. No success. However, she and the baby, who is now 43-year-old Becky Skousen, decided to do, at random, a DNA test with MyHeritage. They found each other.
And I should mention, by the way, that MyHeritage has a new collection catalog that's out. And this is very cool because it's useful for beginners as well as professional users. And it details like the number of records each collection has and which collections are new and the date in which each collection was added or last updated. It's available online and it includes many useful functions. So this is a real advancement in this kind of tool. So that's good stuff from MyHeritage. Well, you know, David, it's been a few weeks since we've spun the wheel of wherever, and I think it's time we bring it back. Let's find out where our next story should come from. And it's Sweden. Sweden. I'm actually 3/8 Swedish, so I'll be interested to see if you can come up with anything from Sweden today.
Well, this is beneficial for both the genealogist going to Sweden or the tourist. Sweden has a centuries-old hospitality tradition, but now it's actually gone through the digital age through AirBNB. The listing now states that you can actually go out, hike, camp, and pick berries or mushrooms pretty much anywhere. So just think, you could camp and supply all your food for free. Just don't do it where animals are grazing or in somebody's backyard.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of an entire country being listed on Airbnb, so that's very cool.
Okay, my next story is one that's 73 years in the making. Private First Class James R. Boots Beatty was recently given a Bronze Star and 7 other recognitions that he had won but lost over the years. He never received the Bronze Star, and this 96-year-old, who was told to keep quiet about his service, was a member of a commando unit with combined American-Canadian service.
Isn't that great? And this was kind of the precursor to the Navy SEALs and this type of thing. So he was told to keep quiet, and he did into his late 90s.
Well, every week we give a blogger spotlight, and this one is kind of bittersweet. This is actually a fond farewell, not that the blogger has passed, but the Ancestry Insider, who's had a blog for 10 years talking about family search and Ancestry.com and being critical but very constructive with his criticism on both the websites, has decided to hang up his keyboard.
And nobody knows who he is either. This is the thing. He's kind of a mystery guy. There's a picture of him there, but it's a caricature, so you can only guess who he might be.
At NEHGS for 172 years, we've opened our doors to genealogical researchers. We'd like to open that up to Extreme Genes listeners, and if you haven't become a member before, you can use the checkout code EXTREME and save $20 on our regular $89.95 membership. Well, that's all I have from Beantown this week, Fish. Talk to you soon. I'll be heading off to Scotland next month.
Oh, boy, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. All right, thanks so much, David. And coming up next, we're going to talk to a man who's had a lifetime journey to end all journeys. His name is Paul Franzak. His story begins with the kidnapping of an infant in Illinois in 1964. And we'll be joined by C.C. Moore, the DNA detective, later in the show as we talk to Paul about this incredible story. It's all coming up next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. legacytree.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andMe.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andMe.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andMe.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andMe.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andMe.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andMe.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andMe.com.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes at ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, and this segment is being brought to you by 23andMe.com DNA. And you may recall several years ago, we talked about the story of an Illinois man who had been found in New Jersey as a child and taken to the parents of a baby who had been stolen from a hospital back in 1964 and presented to them. And of course, that child grew up to discover he was not the kidnapped child of his parents. His name is Paul Franzak. He's in Henderson, Nevada, and he's on the phone with me right now. Hello, Paul. Welcome to Extreme Genes.
Scott, thanks for having me, and thank you to Extreme Genes.
Well, this is an incredible story, and I've followed it very closely over the years. You've been featured on network television. Didn't you have the FBI in on this at one point?
The FBI actually, because of my interest in the story and getting things going again, they actually reopened the Franzak case.
That's incredible. Now, this goes back to 1964, and I'm going to let you tell the story here because at this point, a child is born to your parents that year. Pick it up from there.
Okay, so the Franzaks had a baby in Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago on April 26, 1964. On April 27th, someone dressed like a nurse came in, told Mrs. Franzak the doctor had to see the baby, took the baby, and was gone. And that kicked off a nationwide manhunt that, to this day, has never led to an arrest.
Unbelievable. And then, fast forward a year later, a baby's found in New Jersey.
July 2nd, 1965, a baby was found outside of McCrory's Variety Store in Newark, New Jersey, abandoned in a stroller wearing a brand new suit.
And that baby was you.
That baby was me.
And so what did the officials at that time determine about your identity, and how did they figure out that you must be the Franzak boy?
That happened way down the road. I was placed in the system. I was put into a foster home. I was given the name Scott McKinley. I was baptized, and I was living with this really nice family who took in foster kids, and they were so taken with me, they wanted to adopt me themselves. The FBI and the local police didn't have the Franzak connection until over a year later.
And what brought them to that? And how did they come back around to you?
Okay, so basically, I think they needed to close the Franzak case because it had so much media attention. And they based the whole thing on the shape of my ears. Out of 10,000 other children, I was the only one that they couldn't rule out 100%.
Okay. That's breathtaking because, you know, when you think of the FBI, you think of all the techniques they've got, all the methodology, all the paper trails they develop, and they make this conclusion based on the shape of your ears.
And off one little picture of the real Paul, the only picture of Paul that was ever taken.
All right, so let's pick it up from there now. They say, yes, you must be the child. Let's find out. They take you to the Franzaks, and what's their response?
Well, actually, they contacted the Franzaks, my mom and dad, and they said, we think we have your child. You need to come out to New Jersey and identify this boy. So my folks drove out to New Jersey from Chicago, where the whole thing started. And they had to sit in a room with me, and with everyone looking at them, FBI, all the authorities, they had to say whether or not this was their kidnapped child.
Wow, what a choice, though. I mean, because they've got to be thinking, if we make a mistake, we're actually rejecting our own kid, right? And they're going from a newborn to a child who's now how old?
Between 2 and 3 years old.
Wow. What a difference. So how would you know?
Well, the thing was, I asked my mom about this. We never talked about this at all during my whole life. And just recently, my mom and I were talking about it, and she's telling me how she was feeling. And she said the whole world was waiting for their response. How could they say no and have this child go back into a system and maybe have a bad life? And if they say yes, they really don't know. But all they knew was that this child needed a home.
Sure. And this is going to be our Paul.
Correct.
And maybe it is their child, right?
Exactly. And in their hearts, I was Paul.
Okay.
Because the FBI was saying so.
Yeah, and that's a pretty authoritative group to put an identity on you, right?
Absolutely. Back then, it was the highest authority.
And they had no other children to compare as siblings, right, to look for a certain look?
No.
So now you're in the Franczak home. You've been adopted. It's 1967. You've not been adopted. You've been taken in because you are believed to be the birth child of the Franczaks. Everybody's happy, and life goes on. What kind of childhood did you have there, Paul?
I had an amazing childhood. My parents, to this day, are the best parents I could ever imagine or hope for. Of course, coming off of kidnapping, I was extremely sheltered. I was overprotected. I couldn't do a lot of things that most of my friends could do. But, that's just a small price to pay for having an amazing childhood.
So time went on. You grew up. What have you done with your life?
I've done a lot of things, actually. I had over 150 jobs in my life. I've been in the military, an actor, musician, and almost everything in between.
And so you had this great normal life, but in the back of your mind, you had to always wonder, am I really the baby that they lost? When did you find out about it, by the way?
When I was 10 years old, I was snooping in the crawl space looking for Christmas presents. And I found all these different-looking boxes in the back of the crawl space. I started going through the boxes, and I realized it's about newspaper clippings and headlines and all these sympathy cards and a letter from the Pope, all saying, we're sorry you're going through this and you're a kidnapped child. And I found one headline that said, searches for Paul Joseph Franczak. I saw a picture of my mom and dad, and I thought, man, this is all about me. I must have been kidnapped. So that kind of changed everything right there.
How did you approach your parents about that once you found that box?
Well, I was 10, so I immediately went upstairs and talked to my mom. I said, I found these in the crawl space. This is about me. What happened? And my mom looked really stern, looked a little angry at me, said, you shouldn't be snooping around the house, but now that you found it, you were kidnapped, we found you, we love you. That's all there is to talk about. In my house, when the mom and dad said something, you didn't go against it. We never talked about it again.
Sure. So at that point, how did that change your identity? And when did you start to doubt that perhaps maybe you're really not the son of the Franczaks?
Well, I started noticing things like I really didn't look like my parents, and I didn't have the same interests, same goals, same mannerisms. And the name Paul never really felt comfortable to me. My whole life, I never liked being called Paul. And not until I had my daughter did I realize she was only like 6 months old. She had my mannerisms, the characteristics. And as she got older, she had the same interests as me. And our DNA really folds our traits and our habits and, things like that. So my whole life, I've always realized that I probably wasn't Paul, but it went against everything I was told.
Sure. And what are you going to do? You're going to disrespect your parents and cause them discomfort. It's done. But then, of course, things start changing in the world of identity with DNA. And at what point did you start to think that maybe that's something you would like to do? And how are you going to approach your parents about contributing their DNA to possibly match or not match?
That's a good question. My whole life, I always carried a few of the newspaper clippings about the kidnapping with me, no matter where I moved. I moved quite a bit. And I never had the means to do a DNA test because it was so expensive. And then in 2012, I'm at a CVS drugstore, and I see an Identigene paternity kit. It's only like $27.
Yeah.
And a couple $100 to get it processed. And I thought I could actually afford this. So I bought it with the hopes of one day asking my parents if they would do a DNA test with me. And it took about 6 months to actually have the opportunity, and then to have the nerve to ask them to do that with me.
And what was their response, Paul?
They came to visit us, like they often did, and they were here from Friday till Sunday. It was Sunday evening, about half an hour before I was going to take them to the airport. And I finally said, this is it. I've got to ask them. So I asked my mom, I said, by the way, have you ever really wondered if I'm really your child? And my mom said, yeah, we only thought about it. I said, well, what if we could really know for sure? Would you be interested? And she said, sure. I ran and got the kit, within 10 minutes, we're all swabbing away, and then I took them to the airport. And it was so surreal that I finally did that, and they agreed.
Yeah, without any issue at all. Now, is your father still living?
My dad's still alive, yes. He's
Okay.
doing fantastic.
So did he do DNA also?
My mom and dad both did it. I took them to the airport, and then not until they got home to Chicago, they called back and said, we don't want you to do this.
Oh, boy.
And my heart just sank.
They'd been talking on the plane.
Yeah, the whole way, I'm sure.
And so what happened at that point? You have the tests. You have the material you need. Did you just figure, well, if I can preserve it long enough, I'll wait till they're gone? What were you thinking?
No, honestly, I've always been the kind of person that you have to live the truth. And if you have information, you need to follow through with it. So I held on to it for a couple of weeks. I had it in my desk drawer, and I'd walk by it every day looking at it, just thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. But I love my parents. I don't want to go against their wishes. And then one day I took it, and I put it in the mailbox, and I didn't look back.
Wow. How long did it take you to get the results?
A couple of weeks.
And now you had to tell them, no, I am not your son. How did that go?
Well, once I got the news back, I wanted to go on a mission to find their real son. I wanted to find Paul because they raised me, and they were such amazing parents. I felt the best gift I could give them would be to find their real son because a tragedy happened to them that was never solved.
Sure.
And I didn't want to tell them on the phone because they might not hear it correctly. They would only hear what they wanted to hear, and they wouldn't have time to process it. So I gave them a letter that they could process at their own speed.
Sure.
They could reread it over and over and really understand what I'm saying to them.
And what was their response, Paul?
It didn't go as well as I hoped it would. They were really upset. They were really angry. And instead of the way I planned it was to help them find their real child, they took it as I wanted to find new parents.
Oh,
and that
boy.
was never the case.
Yeah, I can understand that. But now you also have DNA that can tell you who your birth family might be, and that was a whole new adventure. And we're going to get CeCe Moore, the DNA detective, in for our next segment to talk about that next part of your incredible journey. I'm talking to Paul Franzak. He's a Nevada man who, I can't say you were kidnapped because you weren't. You were abandoned in New Jersey and then placed in a family that ultimately discovered he was not their kidnapped child. We'll continue with more in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And And we are back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, the Radio Root Sleuth. This segment is brought to you by MyHeritage.com. And I'm talking to Paul Franczak. He's a Henderson, Nevada man who has quite the story. Found in New Jersey, abandoned as a child, thought to be a kidnapped son of a family from Chicago, Illinois, put back into that family, and ultimately found through DNA that he was not their child. And Paul Franczak is on the line with me right now. And Paul, we were just talking about your parents' reaction when they learned you actually put through the DNA tests that they initially very agreeably took, but then decided they really didn't want you to run through. Now you had, though, DNA information that could lead to your birth family. Tell us where the story picks up from here. What did you decide to do at that point?
So once I had the information, I figured the only way I could try to solve what happened to the real Paul and maybe find out who I am too would be to go to the news. Mm-hmm. And there was only one guy in Las Vegas I could think of, and George Knapp. I think he's the best reporter in the country, and so I contacted him.
I see. And so the story went out from Las Vegas, and then, of course, it went national, and we saw you on all kinds of talk shows. Were you on 2020?
I did two 2020s. Two
2020s. And, of course, that always leads to my good friend Cece Moore, the DNA detective. And she joins us on the line right now, too. Hi, Cece. How are you?
Good. I don't know if it always leads to me, but it definitely did this time.
I don't know. I think stories like this always seem to find a home in your office.
And I'm so glad.
Oh, I am, too.
Being able to help unravel these mysteries.
It's a great joy, isn't it, to put something together and make it happen. And Paul's story is so unique. At what point did you meet Cece, Paul?
I met Cece last summer.
Okay.
And it was amazing because we've talked and emailed almost daily for a couple of years. In the beginning, Cece actually reached out to me.
Okay. And so, Cece, what were you thinking with this? What could you do with this?
Well, it's a news story that Paul mentioned that made its way across my desk at some point. And when there's an especially intriguing application of genetic genealogy, it always sort of sparks my interest.
Sure.
So I reached out to him, but he responded, but then he didn't get back to me. And then when he was on 2020, they asked me if I could help out as well. So it was quite a while ago that Paul and I met through email and phone. But as he said, we didn't meet in person until just last summer.
And obviously, this was not one of those simple things, hey, I'm going to put in the test. Oh, look, I've got a brother. There's my family. It wasn't that simple, was it?
No, and especially because it was, what was it now, 3 years ago, Paul? The databases were much smaller.
Sure.
And so it was much more difficult than it would have been today.
So what did you do with this? Now, you obviously were going to look over what Paul had already done, where he'd already placed his samples, hoping to find a match. What does someone do with this situation when it is that limited?
Well, the most important thing to me initially was to just get him in all three of the databases that were available at that time. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to make sure we had 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, Ancestry, and a Y-DNA test from Family Tree DNA as well to try to identify that direct paternal line.
Sure.
Nowadays, I would also get them in MyHeritage, of course, but at that time they weren't offering their tests. So we just had the three ponds that we needed to fish in, trying to find the strongest DNA matches that we could.
Okay. Was there a Y DNA match?
There was Y DNA matches. However, because his direct paternal line is Ashkenazi Jewish, we weren't getting any surname continuity.
Sure.
So if you have an Ashkenazi Jewish line, because they adopted surnames so much later in general, you don't see the kind of continuity you would with, say, a British surname that goes hundreds and hundreds of years back.
Sure, that
so
makes sense.
We did have some matches, but it wasn't pointing at anything too specific except that we knew that it was Jewish.
Okay, so you then had to work with the autosomal.
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very, very hard work with my team, which was Carol Romick, Michelle Trossler, and Allison Dembski. I want to be sure to mention them because this was very much a team effort.
Well, and those things have to be sometimes. Lots of sets of eyes, keeping an eye on the theories, and then trying to prove things, and then trying to disprove them once you come to a conclusion.
Very true. And we worked on this every day. We just kept at it, kept hammering away. And we had a lot of different strengths in the team, which helped a lot. For instance, Carol was fantastic at calling people and getting information, which ended up being really key in Paul's search.
And so you had some DNA matches, distant cousins, I presume. And unfortunately, we really don't have time to go through all the details of the journey that you must have gone through. But I have an idea of how incredible that had to have been. At what point did you come to the conclusion you've got the right people? Who were they, and what was their response like?
Well, I'll start that, and then Paul can finish it.
Okay.
When we finally realized that we had it is when we saw the Tennessee line come together with the Ashkenazi Jewish / Italian line. So we knew one side of the family had Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry and Italian, and we knew the other side was from Tennessee, but funny enough, they also had some distant Jewish ancestry. So I kept telling myself, when I find someone in Tennessee that's got a Jewish great-great-grandparent and an Eastern European great-great-grandparent, we'll have it. And so when we realized that there was actually a married couple in the tree that we had been building that fit those parameters, we knew we were in the right place.
And were these both of his parents?
They were. And this is where Carol's work came really, to become key, is she was calling some of these relatives that we thought would be fairly closely related based on the DNA. And someone told her that there was twins missing, basically.
Wow.
Disappeared.
Paul, how did you take this news?
She texted me. I was at work, and she said, "You want to know who you are? Call me." So I went up to my car and called her, and she said, "What do you think of the name Jack?" And I said, "That's a good name. It's a strong name." She said, "That's your name. And by the way, you had a twin. Her name was Jill." And I think I was silent, Cece.
Yeah, you were. We were all on the phone.
I can
Everyone who worked
imagine.
on it wanted to be part of that conversation.
That is incredible. And so what about the parents now? Why did they leave you there, Paul?
Well, there's different theories that we're working on presently. The main theory is that they weren't really nice people, and they did something terrible to my twin sister. So to cover it up, they abandoned me because they couldn't explain one twin around the house. Because they had told one side of the family, the other side was watching the twins, and they told the other side, and nobody had twins. The twins just vanished.
Wow. Are you in touch now with some family members from this bloodline?
I am, yes.
And how is that going?
It's going really well. It's hard to explain it really quickly. There's been so many twists and turns and peaks and valleys and really dark places in this story.
Sure.
Yeah, my book, The Foundling, actually lays it out really well. But it's not the fairy tale ending that you hope for.
Sure, I understand. And then the other side of it is you don't know who the real Paul Franzak is.
We don't, but we're working on that right now as well.
Boy, what an incredible story. The book is The Foundling. It's by Paul Franzak, and you can find it, I would imagine, everywhere, right? Amazon?
And also foundlingpaul.com.
All right. Very nice, Paul. Thanks so much to you and Cece. I wish we had 3 shows to talk about this whole thing because I think
we could.
And we could.
We definitely could.
Yes, and it's one of the most incredible stories, I think, of the last several years, certainly since we started Extreme Genes back in 2013. Thanks to you both. Always a joy to talk to you, Cece, and we look forward to getting you back on the show here soon.
Great. Thanks so much for having us, Scott.
Scott, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Tell me that's not the most incredible story you have ever heard. And coming up next, we talk preservation with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com, answering another listener's question about the restoration of photographs with some very important information. That's in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes.
You know, everybody needs a place of their own to plant their family tree, preferably one that no one else can mess with and only you can control. That perfect place is Roots Magic. Roots Magic has been a family history standard for years, and now Roots Magic 7 is on the market. It's an award-winning genealogical software program which makes researching, organizing, and sharing your family history easy. You can start from scratch or import data from other software or even Family Search. Roots Magic also automatically finds records relating to your ancestors from MyHeritage, Family Search, and soon Ancestry and Find My Past. You can use it to create beautiful charts, reports, and books. And have you ever thought about making your own family history website? Roots Magic can make that happen too. And of course, there are free videos, guides, and technical support to help you along. Isn't it about time you planted your family tree? Whether you're a beginning genie or experienced professional, Roots Magic is the perfect tool for you.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andMe.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andMe.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andMe.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andMe.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andMe.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andMe.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andMe.com.
Well, genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com. It is time to talk preservation on Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, and Tom Perry is in the house, our preservation authority from tmcplace.com. This segment is brought to you by rootsmagic.com. How are you, Tom?
Super excited, ready to rock and roll.
All right, we got a great email here from another guy named Tom, and he says, Tom, we have some 1970 vintage photos of headstones with names we cannot read. Remind me again of how we might get those enlarged and enhanced so that we can read the info. That's kind of interesting. You know, you think about people taking pictures of tombstones long before billion graves and find a grave, and now those pictures are fading, and maybe some of those stones are gone. It's important that this guy is able to actually enhance these photographs so we can read what's on them.
Oh, absolutely. This is not one you want to do with something you got at Sam's Club. You want to get a real high-end scanner, come to a place like us, come to a place that specializes in this, a place that does billboards or whatever, where you can get a really high-end scan. Then once you have that incredible pixel rate, you're going to be able to go into Photoshop or digital darkroom, whichever you prefer, and do all kinds of cool things with contrast, with changing your gamut colors. Even though it's probably in black and white, I'd almost guarantee it is, you can still go in and scan it as color. And we've said this a million times. I don't care how black and white your pictures are, always scan them in color, because it's going to give you a lot more options when you get in to do your editing. So once you scan it in color, get in digital darkroom or Photoshop, and go in and play around with the chroma, so to speak, and the different colors. Take different bands, because even though it's black and white, the different grayscales still think they're color. And so if you grab the green band and bend it up, you might see, oh, wow, that's starting to show me things. And just go in and mess around with them, and then keep good documentation of what you're doing. So when you go back and do it again, you're not going, now, what steps did I do this?
Yeah, because if you have a bunch of them, you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel.
A lot of people do that. They work on one, oh, this is so cool. Oh, I love this. Now, how did I do it?
Right.
So one thing which we talked about a few weeks ago, if you're going to use Photoshop, make sure you go into your undo menu and max it out at 100 or whatever yours will max out at, so you can go back and look and see what you've done if you forget to write down. Another good idea is just take your iPhone and put it on a little stand or a camera or anything and just shoot the screen. That way you'll know what you're doing. As long as you do things like that, it won't be that hard to do it. Always do a save as. There's some automatic things you can try too. Try those first, but then just go in and try the different menus.
Well, and just to touch on that point again from the beginning of this conversation, these gravestones may already be on Find a Grave or Billion Graves.
Exactly.
And if you've got a bunch of these from the 1970s, there's not a lot of point in spending your time in enhancing these old photographs when you may have beautiful color versions of them right now waiting for you online for free.
Exactly. That's always the best thing to do. You want to spend all that time if you don't need to. One thing this reminds me about on last week's show, where they were talking about working with kids, teaching about genealogy, show them, hey, here's grandma's picture, let's fix it up. When you're doing that, make sure you have your iPhone or Android on audio record. And record you talking to your grandchildren who these people are, so you'll actually have an audio recording of it too that is going to be precious 10, 20 years from now. So make sure anytime you're talking about your family, have some kind of recording device going on, even if it's only audio, because it's going to be so cool for your grandkids when they're your age and they have their own grandkids and they're talking about you and talk about these other pictures they discovered when they were young.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're kind of excited because we just had a brand new granddaughter this past week. And
That's so awesome.
I have 3 of the grandkids at our house right now. So they're cousins to this little one. And we had just a great time in the hospital room, all getting acquainted this past week and recording all of this. And I'm thinking 20 years from now, that is going to be absolutely priceless stuff.
And that's why it's so important. You've always got an iPhone. Just hit the record button. It's always with you. Use it.
All right. What are we going to talk about in the next segment?
We're going to talk about some upcoming conventions and maybe do another email if we have time.
All right. Coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities. And it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. And we are back. Final segment of Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. Talking preservation with Tom Perry. And this segment is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. And now that summer is practically upon us, Tom, and I guess you could count the Memorial Day weekend as the unofficial beginning of it, there's a lot of stuff going on in the family history world.
First of all, there's some great conventions coming up this summer, and you want to be able to attend those. We're going to put together a scanning party tour, so we'll be able to do scanning and all kinds of things across the country. For instance, there's a huge convention in Pittsburgh, which is August 30th through September 2nd. We'll be doing a scanning party there. Louisville, Kentucky, August 25th and 26th. Tucson, Arizona, July 25th and 30th. And Columbia, Illinois, August 4th and 5th. If you have conferences along our scanning tour, let us know. We'd love to set up at your place and have some scanning parties and really have a lot of good times with each other.
All right. Now, you're going to be posting where this route is on your Twitter page, I would imagine, which is at AskTomP.
Exactly. And for those that are getting ready to start going to conventions next week, in June, there's the big Cherokee Heritage Center annual Cherokee Ancestry Conference, June 3rd, which is in Oklahoma. There's the Southern Cal Genealogy Society Jamboree and Genetic Genealogy Conferences, June 8th through Saturday the 10th. There's the Ontario Genealogical Society Conference, Thursday, June 15th through Monday the 19th. And for you that are into Irish ancestry, there's going to be a big thing in Ireland on Wednesday, June 14th to Wednesday, June 21st. Might be a good time to go to Ireland and look at your roots.
Boy, you'd have to grab a reservation pretty quick for that one.
Right.
But wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, it'd be awesome to do something like that, especially a lot of times they have last-minute deals that are really good.
Yeah, you know, back in 1990, I made a discovery of my third-great-grandfather in Germany, and 2 weeks later, I was standing in the church where he was christened in 1768. I mean, we put it together like that, and it was absolutely amazing. Long story behind it that was kind of fun, but nonetheless, it can be done. So with this conference coming up in Ireland, if you're intrigued about it, you got to look into it.
Right, and it'll be awesome to do things like that. Sometimes spur-of-the-moment trips are the best ones. Check out conferencekeeper.org, and you can actually upload your dates to those too, and we use them a lot. So if you have conferences going up, let us know. We'll tweet it out. We'll promote it. And also go to conferencekeeper.org and load your stuff up there too, so everybody will know when you're having a conference.
Now, I'm kind of excited about next week's show because you've been digging into a little piece of hardware, or is it software?
Yes, it is.
It's both.
We call it the black box. It's the size of 2 shoe boxes, so it's totally portable, and it is the coolest thing I have ever seen. We'll get into a lot of details next week. What you can do, you can hook up almost any kind of source into it. It will save your content as a DVA, which is immediately uploaded to the internet.
What's DVA?
Digital Video Archive.
Okay.
And so once it's in there, you can burn MP4s at the same time. You can put DVDs. It puts it right up into the internet for you. And the neatest thing about it, this technology is so smart, it will understand every time you make a scene change. So you're shooting, you stop your camera, start again, it will know, and it'll put a separate thumbnail at every one of those. So it's so simple to find out exactly what you want to edit and what you want to work on.
So basically, it will save all your video in one piece to the cloud and in separate pieces, yes?
Exactly.
Wow.
It's just like it's got the timeline built right into it. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and it's inexpensive enough that like libraries can buy it. If you want to do stuff for your neighbors, it's a good way to do a business. We've had people write to us and say, hey, I want to get into doing this, and we're going to talk about a non-franchise that you can get into for incredibly low price. It's a turnkey situation to start your own transfer business so we can send people to you.
Unbelievable. All right, Tom, we look forward to next week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.
My pleasure.
Hey, that wraps up the show for this week. Thanks for joining us. This segment has been brought to you by LegacyTree.com. What a story earlier with C.C. Moore and Paul Franzak. If you missed any of it, catch the podcast at ExtremeGenes.com, iTunes or iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio. And don't forget also to sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. All kinds of great links and stories there. You can get it through ExtremeGenes.com. Talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.